All right, coming to you live from a Friday, which getting back on normal schedule. As you can see, I got a normal face with me here in Jay, and I got a new face in Cody with F is for Fanatics. Boys, y'all know what to do. Go ahead and introduce yourself. We go straight down the line. Cody, we'll start with you, then go on to Jay.
Yeah, man. Glad to be on. I have been in the comments, watched a couple times, and really liked what you're putting out. So I got together with you. F is for Fanatic is a brand new podcast, about 3 weeks old. We cover all things college football. Obviously, big Florida fan here, so I'm sure me and the Tennessee fan down there will go back and forth a little bit on this podcast. But to all, SEC is the best conference in the nation, and that's all I got.
Hey, I'm right there with you. Jay, my man, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thanks, Ty, for having me as usual. Y'all know me, Jay, Unfair Sports. Just search me on YouTube, Unfair Sports. You'll find me dropping my typical OU and Colorado and college football content. So thanks for having me as usual.
Of course, man. Of course. And man, speaking of college football, we got to start here. These rule changes, man. And look, I think we were talking about this in the green room right before you came in, Jay. And Cody makes a great point. Some of the rules I'm not overtly opposed to. My opposition is to how they are framing it. And we've talked about this before, Jay. That's the debater in me, right? Coming out to where it's just like, don't tell me this is about player safety when you're expanding the playoffs. Tell me this is about your bottom line, and then it's cool. I can disagree. I can say I think this is a good idea or not, but don't lie to me about what this is about. Like we're all intelligent enough here to realize this is about money. If you are really interested in shortening the games, one of the best way to do that is take out one commercial from each commercial segment. But the bottom line would be affected, right? So what are we making of these rule changes? Cody, I know you were talking about some of them that you are not opposed to, and we largely agreed there. So I'll start with you. Talk to me about your thoughts on this. Talk to me about what you like, what you don't like, everything in between.
Well, I do like speeding up the game. Okay. The continuing the clock on the first down does not bother me. Truthfully, and this is why 9 times out of 10, we're always waiting on them getting the clock right anyway. How many times have we seen on a 2-minute drive, the guy catches a ball inbounds, it's a first down, and we're screaming at the TV like lunatics because the play clock is running and the game clock is run. So then what do? They take a referee timeout, stop the clock, then they have to fix it, then they have to review the film to see when the catch was. That way they can stop it and get it back to the certain way. And then unfortunately you get into the, oh, well, it's rigged deal because, sometimes the refs don't catch it and it continues on. You have the announcers always saying it all the time, saying, oh, the clock's running, the clock's running, the clock's running. Oh, I guess it's just another blown call by the refs. It's a bad deal. I think it speeds up the game. I like it a lot. And, the games are too long right now. There's 18, 20 commercial breaks. They're 3 minutes apiece, 2.5 minutes apiece. And 4 hours for a game is just too much.
Yeah, and especially when so much of it, like you said, is dedicated to commercials and just blundering, right?
Yeah.
And I think that bleeds into another conversation, Jay. We talked about this the other day, but I'd like to see a bigger emphasis on upping the quality of the officiating as well. I think that would go a long way into making sure things go smoothly. So talk to me as well. What was your thoughts seeing all of these rules? Where do you sit on all of this?
So I'm in agreement with Cody on this one too. The keeping the clock going, that's a good thing.
I don't disagree with that.
And the 2 minute mark is really the best time to stop the clock itself. But yeah, keeping that going, that's fine. I mean, it's just like you said, Ty. They're lying to us and saying it's all about player safety. The whole goal is to see if they can get another game in each day. If they can get an additional game in on a Saturday in the afternoon or in the evening, that's additional revenue. Because we talked about this with the issue that the Pac-12 is running into right now with their TV deal. We're running out of inventory. There's not time to be able to show all of these games, and most of these channels are going to go for the bigger games rather than, a lot of these schools that really aren't that big of a deal. And so, yeah, but I do like the idea of the running clock. The no consecutive timeouts is good because then that eliminates a lot of the TV timeouts that we're going to have, especially when you're trying to ice the kicker. I think that one makes a ton of sense. But besides that, I mean, I guess I'm kind of curious to what can they do to really better the officiating, because the one thing about it is that because the officials are at eye level, they don't have the bird's eye view we have. Like, they can't see everything at the exact moment. There's a split second. There's a human element and error element to it that I still appreciate and wish that it's not as heavily as scrutinized. Now, some things it's like, okay, you probably should have caught that one, but at the same time, the refs are looking at stuff in a split second, so it's tough. It's not like it's just they can see with like 15 eyes, their entire peripheral vision's everywhere. It's hard to be able to catch all of the penalties that actually happen.
Sure, but we saw a game last year where Alabama was playing where they had to take a 10-minute break to figure out what down it was. So I appreciate what you're saying, but there is a glaring problem in officiating.
You need an additional ref there to be able to help with that portion of it. And if I'm correct, they should probably have a ref at the bird's eye view being able to manage that portion of the game also. And so yeah, that's super annoying. It's like, how do you not recognize that? But
I do believe this is one of the things they have on the docket to get past High Top. And guys, if you haven't already, and I'm sure everybody in here has, go check out High Top Sports. Florida fan, but making general college football content at such a high level. Production is there, information, all of it. Go check out his channel. Awesome stuff. Hopefully he'll be back on the channel here very shortly. But yeah, great. One of the things we were talking about too, Jay, before you came in, is the targeting rule, where we have no idea what targeting is. And that's another example right? Where like, let's get a clear baseline, and that can not totally speed the game up, but it can give us distinction and bright lines. This is the legal analysis coming out of me now. I want bright lines. I want clear, distinct, bright lines, something we just don't have.
But I don't think it's possible though. I think that's the biggest
and I think
problem
that's part of it.
Because of the speed. Yeah, the game is going too fast. Like, every year, the players are getting faster and faster. Hell, we just looked at video of defensive linemen running 4.4s at the combine. It's like, wait, you're 280 pounds? You're 290 and you're running a 4.40? How do you do that? Like, how does that work? And because of that, you're running situations where the game is just going so fast that even the older eyeballs of these referees truly can't keep up with it.
That's fair.
I mean, it would be nice if we could have younger eyes do it, but, young people really don't do a very good job of paying attention when it comes to that level of the job as well. You kind of need that experience. So there's just so many struggles with the way the game is. If anything, they probably should add maybe one or two more officials to help with that, to subsidize. But, man, it's getting tougher and tougher with the how fast these games are going.
Yeah, it definitely is. Now, this is an interesting comment. Cody, I want to get your opinion on this, because this is something that I think it's intriguing, at least. Primetime Vari says a rule they need to make is when defense is subbed in late on purpose and the offense get penalized for it, it's not fair. And we saw some times last year where the offense would sub and the defense at like 3 seconds left was trotting dudes on the field and they had to burn a timeout. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's kind of a strategy. Kind of like I saw a comment up here about faking injury. Sometimes these hurry up offenses like Tennessee runs are moving so fast that it is a strategy to slow them down. You fake an injury or you sub late. And I think either what is going to happen is there's going to have to be a set time, 20 seconds, and then they cut it off to where if you don't have your players on the field 20 seconds, it's over. It's done. You had your chance to sub. And you have to run what you brung. If that defense is not what you want, then you have to burn a timeout. So there is that aspect, especially with these high-powered offenses that are running so fast down the field. Guys are trying to they'll fall down and say, hey, I'm hurting, and then they come right back on. So I think I don't like it personally. I understand at the coaching aspect why you do it, because obviously you're trying to not burn a bunch of timeout, lose all your timeouts, but you're trying to make it competitive. So I think maybe a 20 or 25-second preset to get the check-in of the players coming in and out, and then it's over.
No, I completely agree, because one of the
Yeah.
reasons why, and I made the comment, it would be hard to enforce is because of the exact situation you just went into. What are we going to do? What's the cutoff point? And you defined it. You said 20 seconds. I think that's fantastic. I completely agree, because there has to be, the strategy must remain, because the strategy is such a massive part of the game, but within reason, right? I think that's completely fair. Go ahead, Jay. I saw you were about to hop in.
Yeah, no, it's no, you're right. Keep going. I'm trying to process the just what can be done about targeting. That's what I'm trying to figure out. What can be truly done?
The targeting, boy, me and Ty went over this for about 10,
Yeah.
15 minutes before the show. I'm going to tell you this. Number one, it needs to be defined like the NFL. You can't take a player out of the game, because these guys are getting faster and faster and faster every year. We have D linemen running 4.5, 4.6 at 300 plus pounds. And if you think it's okay for a running back to hit with the crown of his helmet, to shrug up, hit with the crown of his helmet in the chest of a defensive back, and it's not okay for the defensive back to protect himself and lower the boom, it's craziness. Number two, I think it needs to be 2 unsportsmanlike penalties before you kicked out of the game like the NFL. I think that's fair. And number 3, unless it's utterly blatant, a Kyle Pitts, Lewis Cine hit, the Marvin Harrison Jr. hit for Georgia this past year during the playoff game, utterly blatant, where they took the guy's head off. Liberty did it against Southern Miss. I watched a bunch of game film on them.
Armstrong, yeah, you were doing your Austin Armstrong.
Yeah. So a complete and utter disrespect to the game and disrespect to player safety, that I see it. But when it's such bang bang, Ventrell Miller got yanked out of a game, and then he had to sit out another half because it was in the third quarter or fourth quarter.
Yep.
I don't like that. I can't punish my kid for something he did last week.
Well, and then one of the things we were talking about, Jay, right before you got in here, how many times have we seen a wide receiver going across the middle, catching a ball, a defender is coming in, and they are genuinely about to hit them in the chest, but the natural reaction when you get that ball is to duck. And now that chest is taking someone's head off. How can you penalize the defender for that? What is he supposed to then start aiming at kneecaps and praying to God that they drop? Like, there has to be nuance here, right? And
that's the problem.
Yeah,
that's the problem right there. Is the thought of going after knees and stuff and causing more injuries. I mean, that was an issue in the NFL when they started to with the chop blocks, and then going low at the quarterback's legs, is because they were popping ACLs and meniscus on a regular basis doing that. So no, you're 100% right. It's so subjective, and it's so tough to figure that out. Like, if it's blatant and you can see it, but honestly, I hate to say it, that TCU hit on Dylan Gabriel, it was one of those where it looked like he was going low to get him at the legs. And then DG was, of course, Gabriel was smart enough to slide. And the one thing is, you can't pull up at the situation, because then you have a Kenny Pickett situation where you fake the slide and then you keep running. They had to ban that, because once that happened one time, they're like, oh, no. If you have quarterbacks faking their slides like they're giving themselves up, there's got to probably be another way to allow quarterbacks to give themselves up before the slide, to where they don't get leveled like that.
I don't like the slide. I think the slide's a bad idea. I think if you once you're outside the pocket, there's no protection.
Yeah.
You are a running back. You are a wide receiver.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that in the slightest.
That's a fair point.
I mean, the game is getting we have. I'm sorry. AR is built bigger than most running backs and wide receivers. He is a tight end out there.
And as the game gets more mobile quarterbacks.
Yeah. Why? Because he's valuable? That's insane.
I think that's completely fair. I think that's a completely fair point. And to you, like, we can give AR, but we look there's Justin Fields. You look at the quarterback archetype, right? And
Yep.
more and more, you're seeing guys with mobility. Now, I'm not saying teams are going by the wayside and forgetting a pocket passer. My contention is if you have the ability to get a pocket passer, or you have the ability to get a guy who can move around a little bit, a lot of teams are going for someone who can move around. And I don't disagree, man. I think that's an interesting point about not being for the slide, because it's tough to argue for the slide at the point where they're being utilized in the manner they are.
How many QBs have had their helmet taken off because they were mid slide and the linebacker was already there? Is it that much safer?
I mean, that's fair, but the problem is the slide is also there to protect your quarterbacks. Like, I mean, we'll say like Bryce Young.
Protect them from what? You're playing football.
From the fact that there is a there's an issue in supply of competent quarterback play. Especially
so you're talking about the bottom line argument. Yeah. I get the argument you're making here.
Just like you're saying, Ty, here is most teams are going after. That's the reason why AR is flying up these charts. Is when you got defensive ends and defensive tackles running 4.4s and 4.5s, you're going to need a quarterback that can buy themselves times, because offensive lines they're not as good as they used to be. So that's why you've got this. You have a shortage of quarterbacks that are competent enough to even last in the NFL, because most of them, they start to get kind of, they get antsy because they're getting leveled or chased down by these big dudes. And so I agree. It's the overall, you're playing football, but at the same time, the speed of the game, those linebackers and those defensive linemen are moving so fast. You kind of have to find a way to protect the most important role in the game. Like, you got to have a quarterback if you want to be successful, especially at the next level, for success.
I understand that, but when you decide to leave the pocket, and let's say not even leave the pocket, when you go for a first down, when you decide I am going to break the line of scrimmage, I am no longer a passer, I am a running back. Fair game, bud. I'm sorry. You are taking that risk on. It's no different than getting in your car, drinking and driving. You're taking the risk.
I look, like I said, I understand, Jay, your argument at the NFL level, right? Basically saying that, hey, you don't want this to affect your bottom line. Views go down if you don't have quarterbacks, so we protect our quarterbacks to make sure that our bottom line is good. But from a logical standpoint, it really doesn't make much sense for the slide rule to be there in terms of like the game of football. From your bottom line, I get it. But like in the sense of the game of football, it makes zero sense for the slide rule to be there.
It's more of the, like I said, it's more of the bottom line piece, because there's just not enough quarterbacks that can actually. That's why every year you're seeing like half the league trying to find themselves a quarterback, because it's so hard. The position is very difficult to play, and it's getting worse and worse.
How would you feel if your star running back decided to slide? Because he's going to go make $100 million in the league. Or your star wide receiver goes across the middle and slides just to not take the hit.
I'll say this. Are they getting first downs? I don't care. It doesn't bother me if they're moving the chains. If it's a play that's not moving the chains,
possible for a touchdown. They're breaking one. They got to beat one player for a touchdown on a game-winning drive, and he decides to slide.
They'll never slide.
You're calling for his head, but if it was a quarterback that slid, you'd be okay.
But that wide receiver wouldn't do that, though. Neither would the quarterback. The quarterback would try to outrun them.
Yet.
If it's one, I'm talking about if it's a situation where you're going across the middle and there's like six dudes and one of them is going to take you out.
I must say, I've been with you until that point, Cody, because then we still have to acknowledge people are incentivized to score. So there's not a logical wide receiver out there that if he has the ability to go get a touchdown, that he will say, hey, I'm going to leave money on the table to sit down right here. I don't see that being a problem. Those guys are incentivized contractually to score. But I do 1000% agree with you. It makes no sense for the quarterbacks to be the only people to have this rule. And I actually do agree. I don't, especially at the college level, you don't have the bottom line argument that the NFL holds. So And I do agree. I think it'd be actually interesting, Cody, to look into this because I think you probably have a point. Is sliding any safer? And I think if we really started pouring through the data of quarterbacks that have gotten leveled while going to slide, we would find they're getting hurt at a real high degree once contact is initiated. I think that's an awesome point you brought up. I love that. I don't know that the rate of injury would change.
I know of 3 this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
That got absolutely just leveled, and not leveled viciously. Not a guy out there headhunting. Just a slide. The linebacker or the corner was coming in hot, and you can't pull up.
Completely agree. And you get hurt.
You get hurt.
So,
and then
the quarterback's not
on
the only one
player,
there's rules for, though. Just FYI.
No. And then
any
the player that
slide.
does hit the quarterback gets the flack end of it. He gets ridiculed on Twitter.
True.
Yeah,
but
and the quarterbacks are the only ones that do it, mainly because they're usually quote unquote the most frail players. They're the more valuable ones, so they're the ones that slide. But everybody else can, they just don't because they just they want to run everybody over.
See, this is why couldn't be me. Couldn't be me. I'd stick right there in the pocket and be like, nope,
not moving.
I'm not.
Well. Now, when you got defensive ends that are running 4.4s and they can get past those edges, those tackles, I don't know.
That's fine. They have less of a running start.
Touche.
They have less of a running start. I don't have to worry about some dude coming down from the secondary taking my head off. You can take my head off from the edge there, buddy. You got 15 feet to get to me, not 50.
Unless you're Roy Williams and you're jumping over the line of scrimmage.
Oh, but that's not fair. That's not fair. Well, we could talk about this. I mean, we've gone 20 minutes on this. This topic right here is a lot, but I did want to give you the opportunity, man. I am so interested in Billy Napier and the Gators and the outlook, everything. So I wanted to give you the floor, as I did with High Top the other day when he came on. I want to give you the floor and for you to talk to us about your outlook for the Florida Gators. What scares you going into this year? What worries you? What excites you? Basically, give us the pulse of the fan base.
All right, so there's 3 ways to break this down. There's 3 types of Florida fans. Okay, there's the Florida fans that essentially we could win 15 national titles in a row and they'd still not be happy. We have the Florida fans that are like me and they got in later on after the national championship, so we don't really know about that winning experience. And then you have the old diehards, and I tell you, I think it's a mixed bag. Billy Napier and company, he's trying to change the culture. Mullen, a lot of people don't realize that Mullen left the state of Florida in a bad spot. Okay. Mm-hmm. High school coaches hated him. Absolutely hated him. I don't know if you guys saw that Alex Smith bit about Alex Smith was a coach at Ohio State and Florida at the time. Billy Napier or Dan Mullen did not do his coaching staff any favor. He hid their contracts in the desk because Strickland said, if this thing goes bad, we want to make sure some of these coaches are protected and contracts. Well, he didn't do that. Dan Mullen was out for himself. Now, when Dan Mullen got hired, there was a lot of hype. Okay, guys. We thought it was going to be the second coming of Urban Meyer. He brought his high-powered offense in here. We thought we had a perfect storm, but where he failed is, number one, he couldn't fire Grantham. Grantham cost us a national title or 2.
Yeah, defense was tough. I'll never forget, actually, whenever he opened up that season we were talking about earlier in the green room, I was shocked that Grantham was still there to open up that season. Shocked.
He couldn't cut the ties. Now, what I do like about Billy Napier, he came in, he's changing the culture, but he did not clear camp right away. He told everybody when he came in, look, guys, the slate is clear. You can earn playing time. I don't care what you did. I'm not looking at past film. We're going to see what you produce in the workouts. Now, again, the defense was atrocious. We all know that. That's why Patrick Toney, I feel like he did get the job upgrade. I feel like it was kind of mutual. I don't think it was really working out. So there is that. Truthfully, I think Billy Napier. I don't want to say 100% he's going to bring Promised Land back to Florida, but he's going to get the right guys in there. He is very methodical, and I like that. The thing that keeps getting brought over and over and over, everybody talks about, is that he is a people's person. He's genuine, and I think you need that.
Relationships are the name of the game in college football. It's
Absolutely.
foundational.
You can run. There's two ways to run a college program. You can go full Pony Express like Texas A&M and Miami, and we see what that got them. Or you can build relationships, not worry about the money and NIL, and get kids that want to play for you. And I think the teams that do that are going to be more successful.
Yeah, they're certainly setting themselves up long term better, no doubt about
definitely.
it. No doubt about it. And A&M was actually just named. Well, I won't say named, but it's fairly obvious that the NCAA is setting their sights on A&M and the way their collective is structured. That's going to be an unbelievable legal battle coming down here soon, and I cannot wait.
Yeah, they're after Miami too because Ruiz can't shut his mouth on Twitter.
Yeah, when you're running the collective, basically, you got to learn how to just, you don't need to be he wants to be the celebrity. He wants to be the rock star. He wants to be the Mark Cuban, the Jerry Jones, the owner.
But it's not that
guy.
It's so weird too, because it's so parallel to Miami in the 2000s. You get what I mean? Like where you have this one
Neville
booster. Yeah, who you have this one
Shapiro
booster
that went to jail,
who's trying to run in here and be like, "Oh, I'm going to single-handedly do this." And it's just so weird to me because I'm like, guys, this didn't work out last time. I'm not saying it won't work out, but the way you're going about this from an optics perspective, and this is something we talked about. We haven't gotten to it yet, but you said earlier you got some flack in the green room for your take on the Rashada situation. And I didn't get to tell you. That's when I kind of went into my background where I was going with that. It doesn't matter what ended up happening. You get what I mean? Behind closed doors between Rashada and the Gator Collective. What matters is what the public thinks.
Yeah, that's the problem.
The court of public opinion, right? Like it's a powerful thing. That's why you try and control narratives.
That is done and over with. That has changed. Florida just came out with a new NIL law that Billy Napier is going to have essentially full control of who's doing deals, and that needs to happen. Yeah, that was pre before this law, and that's going to change the deal. And truthfully, I think Billy Napier stepped in and said, "We are not paying this guy $13 million." Okay,
I don't blame him.
He couldn't hold Graham Mertz's jock strap right now. He's 150 pounds soaking wet. He wasn't going to play. So essentially, you go out and get Lagway. You have Mertz for 2 years, and so you're gonna pay this kid $13 million to essentially ride the pine, because Lagway, let me tell you, he's a dude.
He's a
dude, and everybody knows he's a dude.
Yeah.
And even if you're not a Florida fan, you know he's a dude.
He's a dude. He's a dude.
I eyeball Lagway the minute he was giving out his top teams and had to do a video on him. I'm like, this dude's legit. He's real. He's the real deal. He can be a game changer for you if he has the proper coaching. Honestly,
another good quarterback class.
Right. Oh well, yeah.
This is another good quarterback class.
Now that's the thing on Billy Napier. He's not Dan Mullen. He has no proven quarterbacks in the NFL. But I don't think Billy Napier's offense makes you win a game on the quarterback's arm. We have two NFL backs in Montrell and Etienne. Then we go out and get Trayon Webb, and then we're in the running for another top 10, top 15 running back this year. The offensive line play has been absolutely amazing under Billy Napier. He goes out and gets two offensive line coaches. Not a lot of teams do it, but I'm here to tell you, Graham Mertz or DJ Lagway and that offense, they don't have to win a game with their arm. They don't have to. All they have to do is manage the game and win a play. There's a difference between having to go out and win a game, put the team on your back and win a game, as opposed to winning a play.
And one of them is a winning recipe in the game of football. You want to talk about consistent winning recipe? Going out there and trying to win a game every play, that's not a winning recipe. You can
We
win.
saw it with AR.
Yes, you can win doing it. But coming and saying, I'm going to win this play. Well, guess what? There's 80, 75, 99 even. Clemson put up 99 plays on Bama that national championship.
How many national championships have been won by Bama by two things? Elite running backs and solid, not even elite, but solid defensive play.
I would say every single one of them, at least in the Saban era, without question.
Yeah, without question.
Now, having a guy that can sling it all over the yard is awesome. We saw that in Tennessee this year. Hooker was, incredible.
Fantastic.
But when you're built on one thing, what happens when he has a bad game?
You know what I love about this point so much, man? I think, Jay, you were there. God, my memory sucks, man. Jeez Louise. I got to slow down on some things. You were there Tuesday, right, Jay?
Yeah.
So we were talking about this, a very similar thing then, Cody. And it's my TCU argument. TCU argument for Michigan. Let me rephrase this. One of the reasons why in this college football playoff, I looked at Michigan and I was like, you're solid, but I'm not worried about Michigan long-term because they're one-dimensional. They have a power rush attack. Go ahead.
They have built a team to beat Ohio State, and that's all they have done.
Boom. Great point. They're built on that power run.
That sounds like Oklahoma throughout the Big 12 in the Lincoln Riley era. They were built to win the Big 12.
Yes.
That's it.
You were built, and
We
that's
talk about it all the time.
mouthful.
Yeah.
That's a mouthful. Both of those points are mouthfuls. Side note, there are some phrases, some points, some words where you don't need a long drawn out explanation. You just need that. And both of the gentlemen sitting across from me, they just gave you a mouthful. It's like I said the other day, we. I don't like the word we, us. It's a very large 2-letter word. You know what I mean? Like there's some massive implications there, but I digress. My point in saying all of this, whenever TCU got to Georgia, we were doing our live stream before the game. And we were picking, and I said, guys, I don't think TCU is going to have anything for Georgia. The reason is, okay, let's say you stop Georgia's rushing attack. What are you going to do about the tight ends? What are you going to do about the passing game?
What are you going to do about the defense that can score?
OU. If they couldn't win it with Kyler Murray and Lincoln Riley and some of those wide receivers, you're not going to win it just off of one side of the ball. If they couldn't get it done, it's not happening.
That was the knack on Mullen too. Me and my dad talked about this. My dad is a big Wisconsin fan, but just we love college football. We text back and forth every Saturday, and he said there's two things about Mullen. Number one, he's not a gamer. Okay, he can't win you the big games, and every single game that was a big game, he folded. Yeah, we were in it, but it was always something stupid that would happen. He'd bring in another quarterback for some reason to run a BS quarterback run or what have you. The guy's the guy just wasn't a gamer. Okay. And number two with Mullen is he didn't care. Like you can even see him on, I think he's on ESPN. His favorite game this year was a game with no defense. Tennessee, Florida. There was no defense. He liked 56, 55 games. That's not sustainable. You can't win a national championship like that. Because what happens if Tennessee goes up against Georgia, who had a defense?
Exactly. This one-dimensional thought process.
And I'm not just picking on Tennessee. Listen, I'm just saying that the high-powered offense and having no defense just doesn't work. It's going to win you a lot of games, but it's not going to win you the one that counts.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And the problem is that it's really hard to build a really good defense. Even with all the talent out there, building it together cohesively as a unit with depth, it's tough. I mean, it goes back to, Ty, we've talked about this a few times, that Clemson-Alabama national championship game. It really was much defense in that game. It was really just the offenses went back and forth because it was at the point where the defenses just kind of hit the wall of, those generational talents across the field from each other are just too much.
Yeah, that first natty, the Jalen Hurts was unbelievable. minute
Too
game
much talent across both sides of the field. So it was
But
just
even
like,
then,
well,
they both had
yeah.
top 20 defenses walking into that
Exactly.
game.
Exactly. So I'm saying the defenses hit their wall. It's like they got to the point where it was like, yeah, we can't go any further. But now, of course, your Georgias of the world are building those powerhouse defenses, and Alabama's still bringing in, having those certain years where they have a 5-star at every single defensive position and they come together as a unit, and it's a historical one. You got to just hope that after so many years, you can put together one of those teams to win a title, because majority of these championships that are won are almost historical type teams if you really look at it.
Yeah, but I do ask you this as a Tennessee fan. How the defense was not great, but how much does it affect your defense when you're scoring in 30 seconds? You know, they go out and they're on the field 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes against Florida that's going to run, or not just Florida, against a team that's going to run the ball down your throat. And then, you know, Hooker and company does what Hooker and company does and scores in 15, 20 seconds. And then the defense is like, we're back on the field again.
The only way that works, and this is the both my teams have this exact same problem. And of course, Josh Heupel is a former Oklahoma quarterback, and the Sooners had the exact same problem this year with Levy's system. My number one complaint, if you've ever listened to any video of me talking about any of those games this past season, that was my one key point. They need to find a way to slow down. But the problem you ran into with, similar with Tennessee as well as with Oklahoma, is that their run game was still getting big yards every run. You know, they're getting 8 and 9 yard runs on a regular basis. And so that doesn't actually help slow down the clock. It's just you're scoring fast. Now, the way you're successful with that is the way Alabama was successful when they played Oklahoma in the, I think that was the Peach Bowl in the playoffs. No, it wasn't the Peach Bowl. It wasn't that game. It was a different one. But Kyler, when they played against Kyler in the playoffs, basically the Alabama offense kept scoring fast, and they were also stopping the opposing offense, making them get mistakes. That's the only way you'll be successful, where you can put together a 4-touchdown cushion, and then at that point you can really just gas the game as long as possible. Take the runs that are only going to get you 4 yards and just do that nonstop until the game ends. And I mean, of course, the score of that game was 45-34, but the game was never that close. It was 28-0 at the end of the first quarter. So that's what you want to know.
Why I love that argument, Cody? Because when I was diving deep into the Kevin Steele hire, which I'm still not over the moon about, I've said this. I think there's something. Well, we've talked about this, man. I think there's something to it in the sense of Saban has familiarity with Kevin Steele, but as far as like, is it a slam dunk defensive coordinator hire? No, and I'd be lying sitting here telling you that. The only reason I think it's passable is the familiarity, right, that they bring to the table. But it's so interesting you talk about that, man, because when I dove into Miami's defense, you want to know one of the biggest problems I found with that defense? I mean, there was a lot. There's a lot we could
There was no fans in the stadium?
Well, hold on.
Joking.
That was the problem with Miami, right?
Yeah.
But specifically the defense, what I found, that offense could not stay on the field. I'm trying to find it right here.
Yeah. That was a big problem they had.
I broke them down there in Southern Miss, and they couldn't stay on the field, and Southern Miss gets nobody. Hattiesburg is in – the biggest thing in Hattiesburg is Brett Favre's mansion, okay, guys?
Yeah.
So Hattiesburg really has nothing. And they are up against it in recruiting.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Let me say this, and then I'll pass it to you, Jay, because I think this drives home the point you're trying to make and the point I was making in this video.
Mm-hmm.
When they played when Miami and Clemson played, Clemson had the ball for 38 minutes to Miami's 21. You're not going to win that game. Miami's offense had less than 100 yards of offense. I don't care if you have the 85 Bears. You're probably not going to win that game. Now, granted, they didn't have the 85 Bears. They had the furthest thing from. That defense was not good. My contention is not excusing the Steele defense. I'm only building up the point Cody makes. If you have defensive problems, scoring quick can be great, but it can almost help contribute to a problem that cannibalizes yourself. And that is an interesting thought process because it's true.
It is 100%. And adding to that, the way that you counter that is really one way, and it's depth. Matt mentioned that in the comments. That's the one thing you do is if you can rotate guys out constantly, you can have your defense out there a lot because you've got starters as backups.
How many teams have that though?
That's
Very
my
few.
point. That's my point. That's why there's very few teams with great defenses in college football. That's why the great defenses don't exist for the most part, besides a Georgia, besides an Alabama on their best years when they had 5 stars at every position.
Yeah.
If you can rotate a 4-star in just to hold the fort for a 2-minute breather and then bring those 5 stars back, you can do that. But that's the thing. That's what makes it so hard to recruit defense, even like thinking with my Vols and even with Oklahoma. And the good thing is Venables is changing it now. You got to have depth if you want to survive in this era of college football. It's the one-dimensional thing does not work anymore, and a lot of these teams are prepared by having these top 5 classes. You got to have top 5 recruiting classes. That's basically the only way you're going to build the right depth.
True, you got to stack top. At the very least, you have got to be stacking top recruiting classes. And Corporate Duck talked about it earlier, Cody. Y'all had a coach in Mullen who straight up said in the SEC, "I'll worry about recruiting after the season." That was wild.
That was a nail in the coffin, boys and girls. When he said that, you could literally see a change in the fan base overnight. Now,
yeah.
I am thankful for Mullen for all the winning he did. There was a lot of fun. He brought a lot of fun back to Florida in those couple years. It's not all bad with him. I'm not saying he was Willie Taggart for FSU, okay?
Fair.
He did a lot of winning. But to come out on there's some things that you just don't say. And your recruiting business is one of them on live TV after a game. It is wild.
Yeah. Matt, this is not a game I would use, the Clemson-Bama game, because when you really go back and watch that game,
that was a Trevor Lawrence show.
It was a Trevor Lawrence show. Like, don't get me wrong, there was a lot that Clemson did a lot better than Bama, but I don't know if that would be the best example for this conversation here. I think that would just be an example of Trevor Lawrence piecing up a defense. Goodness gracious.
God.
God,
and that's what it is.
mercy.
If you have if you want to win, quote unquote, one-dimensionally, you got to have a generational talent on one side of the ball that other teams can't stop. And that's really the key thing, the quarterback. I mean, Bama was able to win national championships without elite quarterback play in the beginning of the Saban era because back then there wasn't that much creativity and their defense was just that stout. But once you get these quarterbacks now, the ones that are prepared for these linemen that are running 4.4s, defensive linemen, that's where things are getting so different. That's where it's getting so much tougher, which is making it even more fun too.
Brandon, I do have to disagree with you here, man. Brandon Smith says if Dylan doesn't get hurt, I'm assuming he says if Dylan doesn't get hurt, OU goes to the playoff. I disagree there, man. That rush defense was just bad. They were bad.
It was extremely inconsistent. It had moments where it will be good, and then it had moments where it would be bad.
I say this to the OU fan. Yeah, you make the playoffs, but you're not beating Georgia.
Like I don't know that you beat Michigan. That power rush attack would literally eat it. OU was 127th in the nation at stopping the run.
Yeah.
There's 131 teams.
I think the whole false narrative of making the playoffs, it's only going to get worse with 12 teams with the expansion. We can lead into that if you want. But just because your team makes the playoff, look at and we are moving towards the NFL's concept. Look how many teams made the playoff out of the NFC South. That's been absolutely just a garbage fire for years. You know what I mean? Like, so what if a 7-7 team or 6-6 team makes the playoffs? Truthfully, you're just going to get railroaded by the Blue Bloods at the end of it. That game against Georgia and TCU should have never happened. Okay.
Yeah.
In a 12 game playoff, they play Georgia right off the bat, or Alabama or Tennessee probably would have made it in, and they get steamrolled. Nobody wanted to watch that. That was terrible.
That was tough.
There was nothing else on, and I didn't want to watch it.
One of my really good friends played safety for TCU. Denzel Johnson was an unbelievable football player in the Big 12. Really, do me a favor, man, this evening, go back and check out. He's got a big highlight reel on YouTube. he was almost a little bit ahead of his time, right? Like in
Mhm.
terms of if Denzel was coming out now, I think his name would be plastered everywhere because of the style he played with. I mean, if he was with Brent Venables, Venables would have a bona fide cheetah for 4
Oh
years.
yeah, yeah. He would have made some
Oh
magic happen with him.
my
Yeah,
God.
agree.
Because
I
that's what
agree.
Patterson used him as. Oh my God. Now, this is where I do agree with you, Brandon. I think y'all are trending in the right direction. You don't recruit at the level Brent Venables recruits at and don't expect to trend in the right direction. So what y'all do in the future, we'll see. I cannot in good faith say this year y'all would have beaten Georgia or Michigan. Not this year, because they were
Nah,
almost
not
like
this past season.
kryptonite
Nah.
to the way y'all were going.
They're kryptonite to just about everybody. The way
True,
the way
true,
they
true,
play.
true.
You know, like you said, that Michigan. It was just I was more surprised. Excuse me, that Michigan didn't really that they didn't take out TCU just because it looked like they were just being inefficient in that entire game. Like they had it, they should have won it. It's no different than Ohio State. The only reason why they really lost to Georgia is when Marvin Harrison got hurt. As soon as he got hurt after that hit, the whole game changed. And then of course you got the game-winning field goal. But I think he was the difference maker in that game. It was as great as that Georgia secondary is, they couldn't stop that man. Period. He was just unreal. It was almost like a Peter Ward type situation without the open field plays all the time and the reverses. It just surprised me at how great. Not that I didn't think he was great. I was just surprised that he was just that unstoppable to where Ohio State could have done more. But at the same time, yeah.
Now, Gerald, I will say, I think now, Jay, help me out here because I didn't call it a bit of a homer, but I would say, Gerald, I know you're an OU fan. I think this is a homer take right here. I just told you Clemson trashed Bama in that playoff game. Bama put up twice as many points as TCU. Bama did not get skull dragged 65-7, and Bama drove the ball from the 20 to the 20. Clemson's red zone defense destroyed them once they got the ball there. Comparing those two games is like comparing water and gasoline. You're not even in the same wheelhouse. No, Gerald, we can say TCU beat Michigan. We talked about that. We talked about what a great job the 3-3-5 defense did. They got skull dragged against Georgia. I mean, it's not being homer to call a fact a fact. That's just like saying it stormed in Texas yesterday as me being biased against the South. No, I'm saying it stormed in Texas yesterday because I had trees falling down and it was storming in Texas. We're just calling it like it is.
Call a spade a spade, you know?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Weston Suns, don't put too much stock in the rankings. They are misleading. OU wasn't the 122nd defense. Maybe not, but they weren't good. I mean, how many yards did they allow on the ground?
What was their record?
6-7.
So, well, it doesn't matter if you're 122 or 50th. You're still 6-7.
True.
I mean,
yeah, you lose 5 games with that one score or less. That all it takes.
I mean,
is that
and let's
to change that.
I'm not trying to take jabs here, but let's be real. You didn't play the schedule that Florida played. I tell you that.
Brandon, I just told you. Jay, you're a Sooners fan. Is anybody here hating on the Sooners?
No, we're just calling it a spade a spade. I mean, that we knew. What
Brandon got
we
real
needed
mad
to
at James and I whenever we said that the Big 12 champion could have 3 or 4 losses. I mean, we got told we didn't know what we were talking about. We said, oh, you could have 4 losses, and we were told by Brandon we didn't know football. And
the one time I got really attacked on the channel, I did a video. Stuart Mendel was talking about OU potentially having the record that they ended up with, and he pointed out why. You know, everybody was like, "Oh, he's a hater," blah 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 blah. I'm just like, I'm gonna be honest. I see his logic. When you lose that much production and you bring in a new coach, it's you gotta those expectations are. It's kind of tough to put on him when you don't know what he's trying to replace. And then Venables even said it at the beginning when he had his first set of press conferences. He said this one statement that we've brought back now just to remind ourselves, oh, shoot, he did say that. He said, I am breaking this down to the studs. When you break down a house to the studs, you're basically building a new house. You're starting from scratch just about. And he said
most
that. He said,
definitely.
we're breaking this back to the studs, and we're going to have to rebuild it. And that's kind of where I was like, And as the season was going on, I was like, I see what you mean. I see why you said we're breaking down to the studs. There was just the inconsistency is what killed us. We had moments where we had a really good pass rush. We had moments we had a great pass rush. The team was still top 5 in tackles for loss. That tells you that they can do it. They just couldn't do it consistently. And at a certain point, if you can get the consistency, that is a big component of the Venables defense, is getting those tackles for the loss, because that gets that offense off the field. That gets your defense off the field, get their offense off the field, and boom, you can put your offense out there and go score. We just could not keep doing it at the high rate, especially on third down. But they were getting it. And so I was like, okay, I see where your foundation is. I see where the studs are. I see where you're laying this. Now we've got to start building it up. And this is where this top 5 class is going to do it. Last year was a top 10 one. This one's a top 5. He keeps doing this. Yeah, we're going to see ourselves up there competing on a regular basis with everybody else. Well, the top ones, that is.
Well,
we still beat other teams.
And OU going to the SEC. I'm sorry, guys, not to bang on the Big 12, but a top 10 recruiting class puts you at like 4th or 5th in the SEC.
I love that. I love that everyone thinks the SEC is just that great. It's Bama and Georgia. That's it.
Come on
That's
now.
it. We blew y'all out in a bowl game. What are you talking about?
A bowl game doesn't count.
Oh, okay.
Bowl games don't count.
It's a game.
Come
Bowl
on.
games count.
On the field.
Bowl games don't count.
It's on the field.
Well, who was the
It's on
winner
the
of the
field.
Chick-fil-A Bowl 2 years ago? Nobody knows.
The game's on
Nobody cares.
the field. That's
I
all
mean,
that
I guess at
matters.
that point, though, we can draw arbitrary lines wherever we wish.
Exactly.
Like, we get into a real slippery slope if we start doing bowl games don't matter. We can then draw
The
arbitrary
Rose
lines
Bowl isn't
wherever
what
we
it.
want.
Who cares who the Rose Bowl champion was last year? Nobody knows. Nobody cares.
why
That's
play
not
the
a
game?
thing anymore. It's not a thing.
It's important. It is important. It tells you how you measure up against other teams in other conferences. That's what's key.
And
not
OU,
if
man,
half
was-
the team isn't playing.
Well, and I will say this: Oklahoma would have been 3rd in the SEC in recruiting this year.
No, I'm just saying. I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying you have to do that.
Yeah, that's the point. That's my point.
You
That's
have
exactly
to.
what I was saying.
You have to recruit like that
Because
if
you're
you are
competing
gonna
with
be
2
successful.
teams, Georgia and Alabama. That's it.
Yeah, they out recruited everybody. At 6 and 7, OU out recruited everybody not named Georgia Bama. So in
That's my
fairness,
point.
are we going to ask questions about the teams who didn't go 6 and 7 who couldn't out recruit OU? We're starting
can.
a slippery slope.
But
We
we're
are
not- but
starting
there's
a
no
real
reason to.
slippery slope.
No,
There's
I
no
was
reason
I,
to.
I was
It's
trying
more
to
of
just make.
It's more of a. I don't like the overinflation of the SEC when it comes to anybody outside of the top 2. Now LSU has their moments. They'll have a random year once every 8 years. They just show up just out of nowhere. They get every single Louisiana player. They
LSU
keep them
does
for 3
LSU.
years, and they just do it. It's like, what the hell is this? And then Florida has their moments as well. A nice set of runs, and then it gets quiet. A nice set of runs, it gets quiet. Tennessee, I don't know what the hell they've been doing with their lives. They just forgot how to play football for like the last 20 years. But besides that, everybody else is just kind of there. I don't really see anybody else in the conference that's hell. A&M gets top classes, and their coaching sucks.
Yeah, that's
every year.
Yeah, but you're looking at it. They didn't have. I mean, before NIL and they went full Pony Express SMU buying players left and right.
They were still getting some good classes before that.
They were
Under
getting-
someone. They got some solid
Yeah,
classes.
they were
They
getting-
got some solid wins. They just can't ever close the deal. It's always the end coaching that kills them. It's the games that they can't lose.
That
They
was kind of
hold 3 or
Jimbo's
4
knock though
Ls.
at FSU, right? Though.
Right. No, 100%. No, 100%. Jameis Winston won that national championship for him.
Yeah.
Period.
So again, like Mullen, can we say Jimbo's probably not a gamer?
No, I don't think he is.
No.
If we want to
you'll
start
get
on
that
the
from us
Jimbo,
all day.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's just some guys that are just have it.
Right. No. That's fair. That's 100% fair statement. Me and Ty will do that all day.
Lincoln Riley, I don't think he's a gamer. My little bit on Lincoln Riley, he ran from the SEC. He left OU in the middle of the night, like the Colts left Baltimore,
Yep.
because
Said
he
couldn't
wants to
recruit
be
top classes.
what
He
this
said he
is
couldn't get
this
top classes at Oklahoma.
well, this is what he wants to be. He wants to be the big fish, but the pond's got to be small. for him to be the big fish. So what does he do? He runs to the Pac-12. Oh, well,
Yeah.
now they're going to the Big Ten. So now he's going to have to compete against Michigan and Ohio State. So you know what he's going to do? He'll run.
Go to the NFL. He'll go to the NFL soon.
He'll go to
Take an
Oregon
NFL job.
or NFL.
He'll take an NFL job, which he should have a long time ago.
I agree with that. Now, I find myself in the middle of this debate, right? Because it is true that the SEC can be top heavy, but the one thing I think we need to remember, it's one thing playing those teams one off. It's another thing going, and once again, I'm not saying you're going Bama, Georgia, Ella, but it's another thing playing that brand of football.
No, I agree with you there.
Because like when I'd talk to Denzel and I'd be like, whenever they played Arkansas, I was like, what's different? He goes, they're big, they're strong, they're fast. And he was like, in the Big 12, we're, strong and fast.
Can I ask this? We keep saying that the SEC is top heavy. What happens if we took a team like Tennessee or Florida and we stuck them in the Pac-12?
Well, the Pac-12 is awful. I agree with you there.
Or
I'm saying
or the ACC.
If you go ACC, it'd be more interesting of a conversation. Because I don't know, Clemson was running the table there and still winning national championships. Like they were built to beat the teams that they need to beat to win titles, or at least play for them.
I think Florida is a higher echelon team in the ACC than they. But that's exactly why, Cody. I understand the question you're asking, and I say I find myself in the middle, right? Because you're not wrong. We put Florida in the pack. I think they're instantly one of the favorites. We put Florida in the ACC. Unless you're talking about Clemson, you could make an argument that they could be competing at that number 2 spot.
Yeah,
very
it ain't gonna be Miami.
You put Florida.
No,
you put Florida.
100%.
You put Florida in the Big Ten. I think they're probably the first, second best team up in the conference.
Yeah, that's the thing when SEC fans get so riled up about it. It's not trying to say that the SEC is the biggest, baddest conference there. I feel like that the grueling schedule that a team has to, a 6-6 SEC team is not a 6-6 regular team out there in the Big Ten or Big 12. Can you pull up a 6-6 team in the Big Ten real fast?
Yeah, let me.
And we can.
Big Ten.
Huh?
Purdue.
Yeah, my point exactly.
We'll go with that.
So it's not necessarily that the SEC is so much better. It's that to win a game every single weekend, and you should know this as a Tennessee fan. You can mess around and get beat by anybody in the SEC.
Oh, no. I also feel like the same way about the Big 12, especially this past year. There was a lot of strength in the conference this year that was a shocker. ACC doesn't have that anymore. So, like, if you go 6-6, like the ACC just doesn't really have those schools. Well,
Gabriel, you're not wrong, but we're talking about the way they're going about it is night and day different.
Yeah,
teams in college football have been buying players forever. The way A&M is moving now is compared, it's night and day different. Gabriel says the cap on this app tonight is an all-time high. Hey, man, if you disagree, let us know. You know me. I love to debate.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
You know me.
Todd loves it.
I love to debate. I love to debate. I grew up debating. Yeah, I love this.
What is he upset about?
I mean, in fairness, I talk a lot, so I could have easily said something and not meant it.
He said I talked a lot.
No, I'm just saying if you take one of those lower echelon teams in the SEC and you stick them in a lesser conference, they automatically boost to the. Now, if you take, let's say you take ACC, let's say you take Florida State or Clemson and you stick them in the SEC, where they run at?
Ty, that's bait. Don't do it.
Where do they end up at?
You know what I wanted to do.
I know. Ty, don't do it. It's bait. Don't do it. But no, Cody, you got a point. You do. Like
I mean, the schedule changes.
To ask. Yeah.
Well, this is why, but I've always said this, man. If there were teams that could go into the SEC and they have the ability to assimilate, I think Oklahoma and Texas, from
by far,
what the fans are willing to do, what the resources they have, those are two brands where they can go to the SEC and assimilate. I'm not worried about them long term at all. I think those are brands that can assimilate.
And everybody keeps, FSU's flexing their muscles trying to get out of the ACC because they are essentially what they are is they are the side chick now. They used to be the main chick, but Clemson is now the main chick. Clemson gets to go to St. Elmo's, and FSU gets to play on Thursday and Friday nights and only gets to eat at Olive Garden. So they're upset about that, obviously. And I know there's some money deal there, but with that being said, if you stick FSU in the SEC, I mean they're barely a mid-level team.
And what's so interesting, I'm so interested in the future. What Norvell's going to do this year of FSU.
You told me to get ready for the state of Florida.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to close. State of Florida, let's get it.
This is the year. Okay, you bring your quarterback back for FSU, and I am a Florida fan. Let's get this right. But I'm not gonna BS nobody. FSU is in serious contentions to make a deep run in the playoffs. A deep run. They bring all their weapons back. They go out and get the big tight end or wide receiver from South Carolina that played everywhere on the field.
Yeah,
transfer portal.
Yeah.
Mike Norvell is doing things in the transfer portal nobody's seen. He is Bill Belichicking. Yes, he is Bill Belichicking the transfer portal. He's saying, look, I'm not going to get him in high school recruiting. I'll go get him out of free agency, essentially. Bill Belichick says, look, we always draft last, and our drafting isn't always great. We'll go get guys out of the free agency. And that's what FSU is doing. And they are putting up a team. Now, this is the thing. After this year, one, if Mike Norvell can put this thing together and make a run for a national championship, that's gonna be great for them. But number two, what happens next year? I mean, you can go from a national championship or a deep playoff contending school to an absolute dumpster fire in one season. They're built now to win.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about that is it's almost the psychological aspect of this, where FSU was riding high, it got taken away, and now everything is trending back up. But what happens when it gets ripped again? Are they going to have the patience with Norvell? I don't know.
Well, some people are speculating the Deion thing, and I'm going to tell you guys right now, write the receipt on it, save this video right here. I know where Deion's going after Colorado if he has success.
It'd be awesome for FSU.
It's not FSU.
Interesting. Where is it?
Miami.
Ooh, okay. Break it down, man.
All right. This is the reason. Number one, there's too many old heads at FSU that run the boosters. They don't want a flashy coach in there with TVs or TV channels and all that. Okay.
Fair.
I get he is FSU. He's an FSU guy. But if there is a program that will drop money on somebody, they'll fire Cristobal on the runway if they can sniff Deion. And if you don't think it's going to be a problem for everybody, if Deion gets into Miami, boys, watch out. You are putting him in his home in South Florida. He's getting 5 stars out of Florida to come to Colorado. What happens when they don't have to leave the state?
Yeah, and one of the most talent-rich states.
He's going to get the best 25 players, and then everybody else is going to have to fight for. You think there's recruiting wars now between Florida State, and Miami? Watch out if he gets in Miami, because every 5-star is going to go play for him. Mark my words.
And it's interesting because we talked about this last year. The top 300, it was something like 57 of the top 300 were located in the state of Florida, and 55 were in the state of Texas, which I get it. When we do populations, that probably equalizes a bit more than it does when I first say that, but that's still wild numbers, right?
They're built different down there.
1/3 of your top 300 comes from Texas and Florida. That's insane.
And I'm going to tell you this, right now it does a pretty good job with Texas, OU, TCU. Everybody kind of gets their share. Now the Midwest is different. I'm here in the Midwest. It's Ohio State, and everybody is second class. Okay,
even Michigan.
Yeah, even in Michigan, football players in Michigan, if Ohio State offers them, unless their daddy went there and their granddaddy went there, I'm telling you, I'm kind of into the Midwest area of football programs here in the high school. OSU is it. They are the premier program in the Midwest, and that's how they always get the best. There's not a bunch of kids in Ohio. They collect from everywhere in the Midwest. Oh, and then they go down to Florida and get their corners.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
if Deion lands in Miami, it's going to be a bad day for Alabama because that pipe is shut off. It's going to be a bad day for Florida, and it's going to be a bad day for FSU, and it's going to be a bad day for Georgia. Because if you don't think that he is going to get every single 5-star that he wants, especially if he wins a Pac-12 championship and makes a playoff appearance at Colorado.
Well, because then you have the legitimacy behind it.
Yeah, it's not just a show anymore.
Because look, and I'm a little biased when it comes to this topic because I told you I grew up right on the Red River, but he had a house like 25 minutes away. Whenever we'd go play Prosper or Salina in football, we passed his house every time, twice a year, every single year in football, twice a year, every single year in basketball. We passed the man's house. So like, I know I'm familiar with like a little bit about him, right? People in the area, man, they love him.
Everybody loves him.
Love him. And I actually don't know him personally, but one of the coaches on that staff, Coach Mathis, the cornerback coach, he's from Gainesville. He's from my hometown. Played in the NFL. Super, super talented. That staff they've assembled at Colorado. I think that's one thing, right? It's easy for people to be like, oh, well, there's a lot of hype on Colorado right now because of Deion. And that's partially true.
That's the only thing saving the Pac-12.
Right now, man, it is wild right now how that's the eyes of the Pac-12.
Yeah, great point. Team that just went 1-11.
RJ Moore Malone. So he had a comment earlier, man, that was really interesting. I'm going to fish for it. But he was saying he played. Here we go. He says he played in the SEC and the ACC. It's a different brand of football, different type of athlete. Also been on the West Coast and played arena. You won't find better athletes, players, coaching than the SEC. You know, it's interesting, RJ. I was saying earlier, I had a buddy, and he played in the Big 12 for TCU that 2013, 2014, 2015 seasons when TCU was. Matter of fact, you're a football nerd like myself, Cody. You'll love this. You remember the TCU Oregon bowl game that was just unbelievable? High scoring TCU came back.
Yes, I think so. Yes.
The quarterback got suspended in a bar the night before.
Yes. The bar fight.
Denzel was the safety that made the play in quadruple overtime to seal the win for TCU. Whenever the quarterback threw it and he dove like Superman and swatted the ball out the air, that was him.
Yeah.
This dude played NFL. Right? I mean, he is a dude. I asked him when they played Arkansas, I was like, so what's the difference? He's like, honestly, man, I think you'd be surprised. Like, there's great football everywhere I've played. You'll find great football. He's like, but in the S, they're big and fast and strong. He's like, it's just that they're so big and fast. That's just different there.
Gervon Dexter he's 300 plus pounds and he just ran a 4.6 at the combine.
RJ, if you don't mind me asking, where'd you play, man? Because that's awesome. Thank you for tuning into the stream and giving us an actual firsthand view on your experiences. That's unbelievable, man. That's unbelievable. Visor says Deion will have kids leaving in the portal after a 4-win season. Maybe Visor. But here's one thing, man, and I've been consistent in this. We need to give him time at the same. They won 1-11 last year. Like this is a situation where there is a rebuild that has to occur.
Full rebuild.
Full rebuild. So I think we need to kind of temper expectations, right? Like when I'm talking about the hype around Colorado, I'm talking about their ability to attract players there right now because they weren't able to. What they do on the field, we have to remember the nuance of a full rebuild. What that looks like, I'm not quite sure just yet.
And truthfully, I think I'm going to say this about Deion. Deion is not Jimbo Fisher, okay? I've heard it a lot. You know, when Deion makes or has a kid come there. I mean, these kids want to play for him. Want to. There is no there's no I don't think it's a Jimbo, they're not paying these guys like what A&M is. So I don't think that happens. I don't think the transfer portal, I don't think Colorado gets eaten up by the transfer portal. I think these kids are bought in. Now if he does struggle again, like Ty just said, I mean, that team was terrible, and you are bringing in all new talent. I don't know how many players are even left from the last year Colorado team. Not very many.
Not very many at all.
And I get that with the show and everything, everybody is expecting him to win now. But JSU, he did not. I don't think he killed it the first season at JSU either.
One thing we know, man, he can coach. Like, the dude can coach. But there's a rebuild that's about to be down in front of him.
There's something between coaching and guys believing into you. You can call peanut butter and jelly, and if your guys love you and they're willing to run through a wall for you, they'll do it. They'll make the play happen.
Yeah, and that's one thing, man. When you just listen to the people that have been around him, man, it's just he's got an infectious personality.
Yeah. It's the same. It's not the same, but it is the same type of feeling people feel about Billy Napier. And I'm not talking fans. I'm talking coaches. I'm talking players, parents. That's the way they feel about Billy Napier, is that, he's genuine. They just love the guy. A lot like Deion. And that's why I'm saying, if he goes to Miami and gets into those homes in South Florida, watch out. It's going to be tough.
This is a completely fair comment, Visor. I want to read this out. He says, "I'm not saying he can't coach. I just don't know if he establishes a culture year one to keep kids from hitting the portal if they have a 4-5 win season." And I think it is important to pre-preface this. He has a good point earlier that's tough for me to argue against. Whenever we're talking about, like, we think they'll be bought in, he does counter with this, and it is tough for me to go against this about this is just not how these kids work these days. And we're seeing that at a higher degree. Now, I don't think that's like blatant, but
yeah, not for normal coaches, but for a few and far between. Kirby Smart, Nick Saban, and I would say Deion Sanders, they're staying. I'm sorry, that there's something about him that kids love.
Just make dollars, Roadrunners. Just make dollars.
Yeah, there's something about it that kids love about him. And that, there's a reason why he gets so many views on YouTube. It's must-watch TV.
Yeah. True. It's the eyes, man. And right now that's powerful. You're talking about a team that had no eyes on it now in this. Now, there's a reason, though. Oh, yeah, good point, Hank. And Schwartz, no doubt. And I concede this point completely. It is unknowns until the first game is played. There is unknowns. Now, we can take educated guesses, right? And I can point to Sean Lewis having a great offense. Rex on stacks on stacks. Okay.
This is the thing real fast about Colorado. What everybody's expectation is, and what Deion and the team's expectation and the University of Colorado's expectation is two totally different things. I mean, people think he's just going to come in and be ready for the playoffs right away. And it's just not going to happen. I think he knows that. I think his kids know that. I think the boosters know that, Colorado. But I think that there's a misconception along us as just viewers thinking that it's just going to change overnight, Ty.
Yeah, but I think that's easy to do whenever these situations happen, right? I think that's very natural for us to do, just as a basis as humans, right? Someone said earlier. Now, RJ, I did want to say this, man. If you have a Twitter, I'm about to link my Twitter. Hit me up on Twitter. Let's get you on the channel sometime, man. I'd love to pick your brain about the differences you saw, some schematic differences, all that. Roadrunners ran off on the plug. Hey, man, I hope you got away. That's all I'm going to say is I hope you got away. I don't have expectations, but if comes to representation of kids gaining a platform. Yes, Bishop. And this is a big thing, man. That's going to be a big thing for college football in the future. These kids are smart. They realize that. I haven't gotten to talk to him very much. I mean, just like when I say talk to him, we basically just said hi, bye. But the Seydou Traore, the tight end they have, we messaged each other a bit on Twitter. That dude, like, he's going to be a dude, and he has his YouTube channel, getting that situated. That is something that's going to be big for success coming forward. But I'm excited for Colorado's future, man. I think they're going to be an exciting team to watch. But I do agree, we need to give them time. I don't know about you. I think this will be part of our closing. I have a 3-year rule when it comes to coaches. Give them 3 years unless things are just like blatantly like awful. Give them 3 years and then you can move on.
See, and I say 5.
Okay.
5 years. Unless it's a complete and utter, something happens like a Penn State ordeal or, something that is so, what was the word I'm looking for? So
beyond the pale.
bad. Beyond, yes, something that is so bad. Florida's done it 3 years out, 4 years out, 3 years out, and look where we're at. I think you give these guys 5 years. And when people say, "Oh, we got to give them their guys," wait till their guys come in. Well, that's 4 years. If you really think about it, to get all of their guys in.
That's fair. Yeah.
It takes 3 or 4 years to get their entire guys in. And then if you are like Billy Napier and you get hired in late in the recruiting season, you lost a whole year. His first class, he lost a whole year of recruiting. He had to make that class up in a month. It was like at 50. And so that's your first year. So if you only give them, you said 3, right?
I said 3. Yeah.
3. Yeah. If you only give them 3 years, so you're going off of 1.5 classes.
Because I think we should split the difference.
Yeah.
Tom Landry has a 4-year rule.
Well, here's the thing. There are certain players, not even players. There are certain positions on the field that you can plug and play a freshman in, and it's okay. Wide receiver and cornerback, safety. That's really about it. Maybe
don't really want an offensive lineman being a freshman.
No. Or defensive lineman, or really
it can
a
work,
linebacker.
But like in a perfect scenario, that's not what you're gunning for.
Linebackers either.
Yeah, true.
Unless your name is Harold Perkins from LSU.
That dude is a monster. Oh my gosh.
You don't want it. You're taking an 18-year-old kid and lining him up against a kid that's been in a weight program against 23, 20, 22, 24-year-old kids. That only works in 2 positions, and that's corner and wide receiver. That's my rule. I don't want any freshmen starting on my offensive line or defensive line.
I'm actually not. I don't have an Instagram yet, RJ. I just have it. I'm so bad at the social media thing, man.
Yeah, I just got Twitter 3 weeks ago.
I do have a Twitter. I linked it up right here. If you want to go follow me on Twitter, we can set it up, man. I'd love to get you on and just pick your brain about this stuff. Because it's awesome getting someone who played the game. You know what I mean? Their insight on it.
Yeah, most definitely, especially at that caliber of talent with the SEC and the ACC.
Yeah. Now, LFG, you said something earlier. You said Coach Prime Effect right now, already 45,000 tickets sold. And remember, I think it was a week ago they had sold, or maybe it was the beginning of this week, they'd sold 30,000. And that was more than they had expected the last 7 spring games combined when it was free.
Yeah.
So that's what we mean. And Elove, you said earlier, y'all take it as hype. It's just confidence, relax. We're using hype because you're right. From Prime's perspective, it is confidence, but from the outside, it's hype. And I get hype has a negative connotation, but we don't mean it in the negative connotation. We're just meaning it literally.
I don't think it's hype at all. I think he's absolutely brilliant in the way that
Oh, for sure, but it's still
he has brought TV shows in to record everything that's happening, and I don't think it's hype. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? You go there and
well,
you
no,
still
but
have
it's
a
still hype.
transfer in your back pocket.
Well, it's just like this, man. We know I'm big into the shoes, right? So you'll know a shoe drop is going to be profitable, right? Like there's still hype around it. I think with sports, we take this negative connotation with hype, but it's like, oh, well, the hype's not deserved. And in fairness, that is probably me knowing that there's a negative connotation around the word hype and still using it because I'm using it literally is probably not conducive to success. But when I say hype, I don't mean to diminish from anything he's done. I'm saying we look at Colorado and people are interested. That they are tuned in, they are there, they are ready to go. They want to learn more, they want to go there. And so there's probably a better way for me to phrase that in fairness. But I mean it in its most literal sense. Roadrunner's just cracking me up at this point, just typing random things, and I don't know why. I don't know why it's cracking me up.
They just came out with the Jordans with the orange, blue, and white. It's not necessarily Florida. It's not the Florida Gator, obviously their shoe, but I just bought one of those, a set of Jordans in those. So yeah, I've kind of been on the, and I would really like a pair of the high top Syracuse's.
Then I'm going for the UNC 5s tomorrow. Really excited about that. Oh yeah. I got two things, man, where I've always had a little bit of an issue. I love hats. I love shoes. Like those are the two things.
The shoe thing, it gets dicey pretty quick. You download Goat onto your phone, and boy, it gets dicey.
Yeah, well, that's why I've given myself the rule: if I don't hit off the drop, I'm not gonna get them. Because I want to keep myself honest. I don't want to go too crazy.
Yeah.
But man, we've been going for an hour and a half almost. I'm gonna let you get out of here. I'm gonna let everybody get out of here. This was a great time.
Yeah,
I had a blast. Before you get out of here, man, let the people know where they can find all of your great content. And guys, do me a favor. This is not going to be the last time you see Cody on the live stream. We're going to plan this. We're going to make this. I'd love to get you on at least once a month, man, to talk to us all things Florida.
That'd be absolutely awesome. I let me know. I'll be on here.
Yeah, let's try and do it at least once a month.
So much fun. Yeah. So F is for Fanatic. Is our YouTube page. Listen, guys, we are brand new. Any likes and subscribes we can get, it really helps. Share the word. And then on Twitter, it is at F_is4Fanatics. And so, yeah, man, we're brand new. I'm a little bit different than everybody else. I like to, I did a whole breakdown on the new DC that we hired, but I'm not one of the guys that just watches or just gets the stats and then watches. I like to watch the actual game. So I sat there and watched the entire season of Southern Miss. So, and you just find stuff in there. So I did that. I did a full breakdown on that. We have a live call-in show at 3:30 every Saturday.
3:30 every Saturday. Y'all be sure to go there. I want to do a call-in show, so I'm going to get with you and help you help me figure that out. That'd be great. Guys, be sure to go over to his channel. Follow him. He's making great content. There's a reason why I was excited to get him on the stream. And if everything's still a part of the plan, I will actually be sure to go over there, subscribe, because I will be on his channel. If everything still goes well, we're planning for Sunday.
I'm down for Sunday.
Be sure to check us out over there.
We're going to dive into a little bit of Alabama stuff. So give the Alabama fans something.
I can't wait. I have so much. Do you watch It's Always Sunny?
I've watched a little bit of it.
Have you ever seen the Mailroom episode?
No, but I heard that's the one.
I talk about this all the time. There's a little bit in there, and I feel like that's me every single live stream. And Matt comes down, and Charlie's in the mailroom. He's like, "Can I talk to you about the mail, Mac? I've been dying to talk about the mail. All I want to talk about is the mail." And like that's me whenever someone's like, "Ty, what do you think of Alabama?" It's like, I've been dying to talk about Alabama. Can I talk about Alabama? All I want to talk.
Yeah, we'll definitely dive in on some Alabama football, and some close games that they've kind of hung in with Florida that made it interesting. So
Yeah, I mean, especially that a few years ago. Ooh, that was a close one.
yeah.
You know the one I'm talking about, in the
Oh,
swamp,
yeah.
biting my fingernails. Goodness gracious. But guys, thank y'all so much for tuning in. This was a great time. Thank you everybody in the chat for contributing. I say this all the time. These shows are not near as fun without y'all contributing, and we love it. If we say something you don't agree with, push back, because it makes great content. It leads to conversations with us, and we all learn something at the end of the day, and that's the point of a debate, is for us to all walk away with something. So enjoy your evenings with your family. We will see you on this channel Monday, 5:30. We will see you on F is for Fanatics Sunday. Well, till then, enjoy your weekend. That's it.
Go Gators.
See ya.